I have a question. And if can I ask a question?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, Ricky.
So I know this mastermind is for training us to go towards listing more, but what I find myself going into is more always when because you get buyers easily, right? The inquiries, you go do open houses. So once I start getting busy with the buyers, I stop focusing on listing side. So
Yeah,
it's always that circle with me. I always, even though the transaction wise, money wise, it's almost the same, but I still want to go towards listing more rather than working with buyers.
yeah.
But I struggle that a lot.
Okay. All right. So let's cover that, right? So welcome to week 5, right, of our mentorship program, right? As you can see, there's less and less people coming. I'm not sure it's because I don't send as much reminders to say, hey, Mondays at 9 o'clock in the morning, right? Same Zoom link, right? Not doesn't change, right? So until September, we're here, right? Now, if you somehow miss the class because there are things that happens in life, right? Make sure that you watch the recordings, at least the most recent recording, right? Just understand this, right? Your training is going to be up to you, right? We all have different levels of learning, right? The class, like I said, is for to be a live class, right? Because in the live class, there's more questions and things a little bit better, right? Now, of course, on Zoom, it's totally fine because you can hear the materials, you can, we can go over some things. And again, travel, I understand, right? People are busy or whatever, right? So again, we all have our own calendar, we all have our own schedule. Okay. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today is your schedule, right? Because as I said before, right? You're an independent contractor, you started up your own real estate company, right? So what happens in your business is going to be dependent on your employee. And guess who the employee is, right? That's us, right? We're the employee and we're also the boss, right? So the question is, are we good leaders of our own company? Are we good employees? Meaning we do what the boss says. So what does the boss say? Your schedule is your boss, right? Your boss basically tells you, hey, get up at a certain time, be at work at a certain time, do the work during the day, go home, right? Maybe put in some overtime because after 6 you have some appointments. Maybe that's called overtime, right? Because remember, the first 8 hours or so just pays the bills. That's the basics, right? 6 to 8 hours is basics, right? 8 to 10, that's overtime. You start to make some money, right? But it's after the 10 hours you actually realize wealth. Because if you know any business owners, right, most of them do work 10, 12, maybe more hours to get started, right? And why is that, right? As I said in this morning's text, it's about your passion, right? Are you still motivated? Are you still excited, right? As a new agent, it's easy, right? For some of you, like Larry, probably, right? We've been in the business, well over 5 years. Sometimes, hey, it's not as easy as it was, right? Or it's not as exciting. But here's the thing, and that's why I said before, pay attention to your 5 pillars of happiness, right? So make sure you do that exercise. Okay, that's on the handouts. Okay, because as I was talking to my wife this week, is how do we stay motivated, right? What gets us up in the morning? What makes us want to the MLS? What this week, right? What kind of workshop should we be attending, right? What type of training? What type of reading, right? As I said before, all your training is online now, so you don't really, have to go to somewhere, besides our class here, because again, sometimes live classes are a lot better. But hey, some of us we learn just as well online, right? We get the materials. Here's the thing, though: be careful about multitasking, right? Sometimes we try to multitask too much and nothing gets accomplished, right? And this is where that focus of this class is about. Where focus is listings, right? Because listings is where you're going to last long term. Okay. We've always been a listing office. Yes, about half our deals are buyer deals because other agents like working with buyers, right? But the majority of our top agents are listing agents. Okay. If you look at your offices, okay, the top agents are listing agents. Okay. Why? It's because as a listing agent, you can multiply your activity. Okay. You can go on vacations, right? Or at least you can control your business a little bit better. Yes, it does take more work, right? It does, require a lot more skills. Sure. But again, that's going to be a choice you have to make. We understand buyers are all over the place. Well, maybe not buyers, lookers are all over the place, right? Now, how do we convert them into a buyer? That takes skills. Now, sometimes we think they're a buyer, but they're just a looker. So this is where pre-qualifying is really important. And yes, sometimes we have to go through some people, meaning we have to go through some leads, some prospects to get to the good ones. And that works with buyers and sellers. Okay. So I'll address both as we move on today. Okay. But to start, right, as part of this mentorship program, right, are you doing the work? Right. Remember last week, you're supposed to submit your 100 point every day that you work, right? And it's up to you if you turn it in or not, right? The purpose of that is so that you see what you're doing, right? And also for me and your manager to kind of at least gauge, hey, where is your time being spent? Is it being spent on the first part, which is the generation, or are you doing a lot of more of the administration, the working on your business? Okay, sorry, working in your business. Okay, so again, are you working in or on your business? Working in your business meaning prospecting, lead follow up, right? Basically, anything that generates business, right? Working on your business is the admin stuff. Okay, this is creating your flyers, right? Setting up your database, right? Anything that you're not face to face or talking to a client, right? How are you getting better with your skills, right? That's all part of on your business. The only thing that's really important is face to face with a client on the phone, communicating with clients. So that's why I want to focus the first part of the meeting today is making sure that you're talking to enough people every single day, right? Because talking to people, connecting with people is key, right? No matter how good or bad you are, if you talk to enough people, you'll do enough business. So the question is, are you talking to enough people? Or are you able to find people? Because if you're not able to find people, then we need to address them. And this is where, as I said before, you got to have a good CRM. You got to have a good lead system. Most of the people we talk to today, 90% or so, is not thinking of buying or selling, right? So part of the motivation that we have to go through today is, hey, I'm gonna talk to people that's gonna say, "Oh, I'm not ready. I love my place. I just moved in." Things like that, right? Well, guess what? That's okay. Because if I do a good enough lead follow up, eventually when they do move or sell, right? Then I would have more likelihood of getting a call back because that's what we want. It's an opportunity. But how do we remember them? Or how do they remember us? Right? Because are you calling them quarterly? Right? Are you calling them more often? Right? Like for instance, this 4th of July weekend, there are some people who I spoke to at least 3 or 4 times or more, either by text or actual phone call, right? And all we were talking about is the 4th of July or fireworks or different things, right? Different things that they're doing. And then they come back and ask me a question. But remember, it's all about them. When we're talking to them, it's all about them, right? Be careful not to now it's sure okay if they ask for it, right? We're not going to volunteer too much because we want to get to know what they're doing, right? Because we want to care, we want to know about them. That's how it is, right? What's in it for them? And when you're asking about them, right? Not in an interrogative, right? Not as an interrogation, okay? as a matter of conversation, okay, it will feel a little um, more as if we care, and we totally do care, right? Because we want to get to know who they are, and that's the key. Because if we don't really care about people, then then they're just a paycheck. Then I think that's a little bit wrong, right? Okay. I sincerely want to know what are they doing because like I said, I may need that information, right? Like we were talking about the Golden Gate, fireworks was the biggest thing, right? Okay. And as I shared with some of you guys this morning, for me, it was kind of disappointing. I like I wish we were out in New York, right? We almost jumped on the plane to go to Washington, D.C. because my wife wanted to go to Washington, D.C. But even that was kind of delayed because of thunderstorms, right? Yeah. So again, bottom line is, you know, it's up to you where you spend your time and what people do. Get to know them. Because this week, guess what? I'm calling people about, hey, what did you do for the July weekend? Right? Not the same people I spoke to last week because I already know what they did. There are new people that I need to be calling, right? For today is the sixth, right? So I should be on the letter F by now, right? So I'm calling. Hey Clementina, how are you? Hey, how was your Fourth of July weekend? Right? That's the topic of everybody's conversation right now, right? It's the Fourth of July. They did something, right? So when I call people, it's about, hey, how was your weekend? Where do you guys, watch fireworks? Usually, is one of the first questions. Right? Get to know their Fourth, right? And which part of that is? That's recreation, right? What did they do, right? And then see what else are they doing. Hey, so what's up for the summer? Are you and the kids doing anything? How do I know I have kids? It's because on my database it says, Brent has 10 kids, right? And these are their names. Right? I have one client, they have 11 kids. Okay. Try to remember their names, right? Okay. It's you got to have that database, right? Okay. Because that database is the key to growing your business. And here's the thing, do you have a monthly mailer, as we talked about before? At least a monthly going out, right? If you don't have the budget to mail yet, right? And then, of course, are you doing the quarterly calls or more often, right? Like some of you guys, some of our agents had their birthdays this weekend, right? You guys probably got something from the office. Hey, it's so and so's birthday, right? So what do? Right? Call them, right? How often do you guys call people that have people's birthdays, right? I don't call everyone every single year. There are too much, right? Um, but most of the time, I would be calling someone on their birthday because I used to use Facebook, right? Now it's on my CRM, right? So again, however you are reminded of people's birthdays or important dates, right? You got to reach out. These are what we call milestones, right? Events, life events of people, right? Imagine if you found out that, Larry's child was born last year and this is his first year, right? Remember? I would send a little note to Larry's son. Hey, Joseph, congratulations, right? It's your first year's birthday, right? Here's $100. Make sure you save it for your down payment. Call me in 18 years when you're ready to buy. Okay, I send that every first birthday when if I know my client has a first birthday kid, right? I mean, it's the first year. I give him $100. Okay, it's not tax deductible. You give him $100. Okay, and guess what? I've got three people come back. Okay, in 35 years. Okay, you know, and how it is the parents are the one that call me. It's like, hey, remember Greg? You sent him $100 in his first birthday. I never mentioned it, right? But if they have multiple kids, they get multiple ones, right? So because again, our clients will become our friends, right? So you have to make this fun. It used to be a $25 savings bond. You guys remember savings bond, right? For college, $25. Yeah. Now I just make $100, right? It's easy, simple, right? I don't have 100 of those, they're like, 10, 20 of those a year that I send out. It's okay, right? Bottom line is I would again someone else back. It's my thought, right? Remember, it's not one activity that will get you the deals, right? Because some of you guys think, oh, I'm going to door drop 1,000 flyers, I'm going to get a listing. No, if you do, great, but that's not the clear expectation, right? Anything we do will pay us at least 90 days up front. Rarely do we do anything today that pays us in 30 days. Okay. Everything pays us later. It has to mature. It's like a CD, right? There's a maturity date. Could be a 5 year CD. Okay. Some of you guys can't last 5 years. You need a paycheck today. And this is where sometimes agents get stuck working with buyers. Right. They'll do an open house, right? They meet some buyers and they spend all that time working with them to hopefully convert them. That's okay. But here's the thing, right? Listings is how you last, right? And I'm open to a conversation on that, right? If you don't think listings is how you last in this business, put it on the chat or speak up, okay? Because if you don't have a listing base, right, you're always going to be someone else's employee. Remember, as listing agents here, if I take a listing today, I'm employing all the agents out there, all 10,000 agents in the Bay to go find me a buyer, right? I'm a listing agent. I control the market, right? If I'm a buyer agent, guess what? Now I have to fight against 10 offers, 20 offers, rather than sifting through 10, 20 offers. Make sense? Right? So I want you guys to consider that, hey, listings is how you last, right? You got to have part of your day, part of your week, specifically looking for listings. I don't care if you're door dropping 100, 200 flyers a day. If that's all you're doing to start, then that's a good start, right? You're looking for exercise, door drop 100 to 200 flyers every single day. That's 500 to 1,000 flyers a week. Start with that. Pick your farm, right, that you want to target and start walking it. Get a good pair of shoes and just door drop flyers. That's how I started. Okay. Eventually, I felt more comfortable. Now I'm knocking on doors. And guess what? When I knock on the doors, they're going to bring up something that they saw on the previous flyer, right? Or at least they know who I am. Okay. So again, if the very least that you're doing to get listings is to door drop, start doing that. If you're not doing door dropping flyers, right? One of our top agents before, or I think he's still doing it now, but it is the numbers. But if you guys know Eric Fisher Colbury from Los Altos, okay, this is how he started 25 years ago. His door drop. He always told me that, hey, I don't door knock, okay, because he's shy, he doesn't know what to say, or he's not just not comfortable. But when people open the door or he sees them at the like on the front yard, it's instant credibility, instant notoriety. They know who he is because he's been door dropping the flyer. Okay. But here's the thing. Does he get all the listings in Los Altos or at least in his farm? No. But he door drops, between, I think around 5,000 flyers every single month. Door drops as part of his morning routine. So you're looking for, like I said, something to do, just start door dropping. And you guys have the flyers, okay? We give free flyers, right? You can print free flyers at the office, right? Up to a certain limit, I think. But hey, why can't you door drop 100 flyers every single day, right? If you're not mailing, why can't you door drop 100 flyers? Okay, so 400, great, are good, right? So I need you guys to get to 1,000 flyers a month. Actually, 1,500, at least 1,000 homeowners, right? So up to 1,000 homeowners. Remember, every house is not a homeowner, right? Sometimes they're going to occupy up to 1,500 homes per month, right? That's the minimum, right? So 1,500 homes divided by four, right? That's like 400 a week, roughly. 100 per day, over 4 days. You got to be able to do it, right? How long will it take you to door drop 100 flyers a day?
An
Hour
hour
or
and
two,
a
right?
half. Hour and a
Yeah,
half.
hour or two, right? So find it in your day. So let's say that's 2 hours, right? So now how many hours do you work per day? Right? You can
Six,
only
seven
do
hours.
yeah. I mean, what else are you doing during the day, right? You only look at the MLS so long. You can only go do so much training, right? So throughout the week, how many hours per week, right? A typical top agent works about 50 to 60 hours, right? Remember, the first 8 hours pays the bills, 8 to 12 is extra, but 10 to 12 is where you really make money, right? And here's the thing, it's not about hours, it's how effective you are in those hours, right? Okay. So if you're doing an open house, right? How effective are you with engaging people and getting their contact info and being able to connect with them, right? Because if you do an open house, all you need is one or two per open house, one or two good leads, right? Remember, you're supposed to do 4 open houses a month, right? Or at least prospect for it as part of this group, as part of this class, right? 4 days of open house minimum, right? Contacting 25 people per day, right? And here's the thing I need to see is, are you putting out the effort? And what are, because if you're putting out the effort, you're going to find challenges, right? Or you're going to say, hey, Greg, this is not working. Well, now let's talk about it. What are you doing? Because you can't say, hey, I sent out 25 notes and nothing happened. Something happened. Or we need to figure out what actually happened. Okay. It may not have resulted to what we expected, but we need to figure that out. Okay. Because like I said, the things that I teach you, I do or have done, right? I know it works. And I challenge you to tell me it doesn't work, right? You tell me you talk to 5,000 people in 1 year and you don't get a single listing or at least 5 listings, then something happened. We need to have had that conversation at 500 people. Because if you're not getting a listing appointment at 500 conversations, right, then something is happening. If you go on 5 listing appointments, you don't get a listing, something happened, right? You take 5 listings and none of them sell, something happened. Because just because you have a listing doesn't mean it's going to sell, correct? Okay. Because who's in control, you or the seller, right? Okay. So again, I want you guys to make sure, see, looking for sellers, to me, is the easiest activity. You want to know why? Why is looking for sellers easy?
Because they're in the houses.
Yeah, you know where they
You know.
live, right? You know
Yeah.
who the homeowners are, right? You can target them, right? Sure. You don't know when they're home. You can see, oh, are they home morning, afternoon, or evening, right? You can start to track it. Okay. So in your farm, remember in your farm, I told you, floor market, let's say this week, these people, right? And you figure out who's home and who's not. You start to have stats on when people are home. But if you're not keeping those stats, if you don't keep track of your numbers, how can you improve it? Right? Like right now, every day I measure my waistline, right? So I said, well, not much change happens every day. So now I do it once a week. So I see a big change, right? Right? It's that. It's like weighing yourself on a scale every day, right? It you know the changes are so small, right? So to me, I was like, oh, I'll do it once a week. So now it's a bigger change, so now you can see it, right? But is doing it every day good? It's not bad, but it's up to you. It's kind of like if you guys have an iPhone or one of those things that keeps your sleep thing, right? Your stats, your health stats. How many of you guys have that, right? Right? Okay. People always say, your mind that I'm not getting enough sleep, that I'm 10 years older than my actual age. My heart rate is so and so. I don't need a watch to tell me that. Right? Again, it's up to you. What type of tracking do you want? Totally up to you, right? But understand this, what you don't measure, you cannot improve. Okay. So that's why we urge you to do the 100-point day, right? Because to me, that's an easy tracking so you can see what you did. Like, did you even work today? Did you attend or did you do any training, right? How many of you guys know that there's an updated purchase agreement? right? Did you know? Like how many people? Anyone? Okay. That's because you haven't logged zip forms in like a month. It came
Yeah,
out.
I've seen it.
Okay. All right. Oh, thank you for letting me, Brent. Okay. So you've seen it. Perfect, right? Okay, let me do the hold on, everybody. All right. Okay. Okay. So
Echo on that.
okay, hold on. Okay. Better, right? I hope so. Okay. Right. Sometimes internet, even though we are supposed to have, the fastest internet, still doesn't work properly. Okay. All right. Let me look at the chat real quick. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So where were we? What was I speaking about? Anyone?
Tracking.
Tracking, right? Thank you,
You
Blaze,
can
right?
improve
So the
production.
100-point day, right? Right. Thank you for those guys who are sending it, right, to me and your manager. Thank you for that. Again, remember, it's the accountability is for you, right? You know, what do you feel about accountability, right? Showing someone, okay, this is what I did today, this is what I accomplished, right? That's what it is all about, right? Because we will see, are your activities, remember, are your activities leading to your results, right? Because if the activities are not there, the results will not follow. Can we agree? Right? So
Yes.
what precedes the activity? What precedes the activity?
You actually doing the work?
Okay, that's doing the work. That's the activity, right? It's
Yes.
Scheduling it.
Tracking?
that's the after part. It's the
Scheduling it.
scheduling. It's the planning,
Yeah.
right?
Planning. Yeah.
Right. Remember, if you don't have a plan, right? Yeah, we talk about a business plan, right? Remember,
Yep.
all businesses have a plan, right? Either plan to succeed, and if they don't, it's a plan to fail, right? Okay. It's not a matter of planning to fail, it's a matter of failing to plan. That's where most people fail. Okay. So when we talk about your business plan, right? And we have many iteration of a business plan at Intero, right? How and I need you guys to complete your 2026 easy business plan, right? Even though it says 2026, it's a rolling 12 months, right? It's in one of the emails that I've sent. If you don't have it, let me know. But I need you to complete that, right? And before the plan, what precedes the plan?
Planning. Or
No, what's
Execution?
before
plan.
planning?
I mean,
Execution?
what precedes the plan?
That's the activity.
Yeah.
Okay. What precedes? That means before. Before you have a plan, what needs to happen? What do you need to have?
Goal?
A
A goal, yeah.
actual
A goal
specific
is
on what
good,
you're going to be
right?
doing.
What else? What
What
else?
what are you
Blaze?
going to be doing? Your
Okay.
pillar. What you
Your plan,
going to
right?
be doing?
So before your
But
plan, you have to have your thoughts together, right? So your
but
goal, right? So your goal, right? So what is your goal, right? That's where your business plan comes in, right? Like how many deals do you really want to do? Now we break it down. What activity do you need to do? Like what prospecting are you willing to do? If you're not willing to door drop, you're not willing to do this, you're not willing to do that, then we need to figure out how are you going to get business? So that's why we need to have an open conversation today as we go into week 5, which I told you guys before, this is the official start. Okay. Because if you're not doing the work yet, then you need to jump on the ship and find out, hey, are you in or out? Right? Because the ship is leaving the port, right? We're gonna go pretty fast here. Because again, if you're not prospecting, then we need to figure out why you're not prospecting. Okay. So with that question in mind, how come you're not prospecting? Okay, let's not even talk about you then. Let's talk about why other agents are not prospecting. How about that? What do you think? Why do you think agents don't prospect?
why agents don't prospect is because they're not looking at prospecting as something that is mandatory, or they're not looking at it as something that they can find appealing. Prospecting is just, it's a chore.
It's not appealing. It's not mandatory. Okay, that's pretty
People
good.
are afraid of rejection.
Afraid of rejection. Okay.
They're busy with their whatever one or two deals they have, and they said, oh, maybe that's the priority, but they don't understand that prospecting
Okay.
is more important, right? Because we
Yeah.
have to build the pipeline. Yeah.
Yep. So it's okay. I'm too busy with other things like my deals, right?
Yes.
Or life. Okay. What else? You guys writing this down? I need you guys to write this down. Okay. What else?
Energy, effort, sweat equity.
Okay.
I don't want to put in the work.
I don't want to put in the work. That's why I don't prospect. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. But why don't you want to put in the work, Blaze? Why doesn't an agent not want to put in the work? They said, I want to succeed. I want these many deals. I want this much income.
Yes.
Why don't they want to put in the work? So there's something keeping them.
Because
Like, why don't I have a six pack like you, right? Or like Larry, right? Like, why don't I work out hard like 2 hours every day, like some of you guys, right? Right? Why?
Yeah, because the
Like
energy is precious. The energy is precious.
And you're precious, okay? Argun?
Clarity, like clarity of goals, the vision, the motivation, whatever you call it, like that hunger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So here's one question that I have for you. You guys know the word ambition,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So my question to you is, how ambitious are you?
Yeah.
Meaning, how much money do you really want to earn, right? As I said before, so most people are willing to do just enough to get by, right? But like I said, in real estate, sometimes it's feast or famine, meaning sometimes we're busy, sometimes we're not, meaning we don't have paychecks. We're not a W-2 person, right? We're not something where, hey, I go in 8 hours, in 2 weeks I get paid, right? It's not like that. It's whatever I do today pays me 90, 60 days, 60 to 90 days later, at least, right? Even if I get a cash bar today, maybe it's going to take me 30 days, 14 days to get paid. It's nothing is that immediate, right? And sometimes that's where agents fall in that trap that, hey, Hargun mentioned, hey, that's where right now I got to take care of this deal. I got to make sure it closes. But see, you forgot what got you that deal, right? What got you that deal? So that's why I need you guys to understand what got you that listing, that buyer. Did you repeat it, right? Because you know it worked. Now you just got to repeat it. Or did you just get lucky? But here's the thing. We make our own luck, right? Right? What's luck? Anybody have that definition? Remember? What's the definition of luck?
Right place, right time.
Right place, right time. Good, close.
They said it's somebody say it's just a residue of a hard work, something like that. Yeah.
Residue of hard work, okay?
Yeah.
Close. What else? Very simple, right? It's when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? So as Hargun said, it's getting ready. How many of you guys have a listing presentation book? How many of you guys practice your listing presentation, your buyer presentation, right? Just like your marketing. That's why I use TPMCO for my newsletter, because I don't have to do too much except setting it up, right? And paying the mailer. It's what can you do to automate your business, right? So in this case, preparation meets opportunity. If I meet someone at an open house, do I have a system to convert them? If I meet someone who wants to sell, do I have a system to convert them? Or am I now just trying to figure things out? Okay. And this is where sometimes, with agents, how well do you know the purchase contract? Sometimes we are, as leaders, we're disappointed when agent calls us, Greg, I need you to help me write a contract. And this agent's been with us over 6 months minimum, sometimes 2 years, and they've never filled out a contract. Why not? As an agent, you need to be filling out a contract every single day, at least practicing it, right? Do you know how to use the e-sign part of it, right? How well do you know the BRBC and the listing agreement? Because remember, I told you guys there's 3 contracts you need to know: the BRBC, the listing agreement, right? The RLA, and then of course the RPA, the purchase agreement, right? 3 forms: purchase, buyer rep, and listing agreement. Those are the 3 forms you need to know. You need to know how to fill it out. You need to know, must have read it. You need to know how to explain it, Okay. And we have recordings at the Academy for that and also on our YouTube channel. So the most best training is just read it, right? The best teacher is experience, right? And that's why I've told you guys, practice on yourself first, right? And then practice on the public. Don't do it the other way. But if you have no time, every day you're practicing. This basically is what you're doing. Okay. And that's where how prepared are you in that opportunity? Right? If Twinkle meets a buyer today, how prepared is she? Does she know the pre-qual questions? Some agents like, Greg, how do I get my login? Hey, how do I use the Supra sometimes? You should have known that in the beginning, right? Not when you have a client, right? Okay. Oh, by the way, regarding Supra, this something happened to me last week. My Supra, if you have an iPhone, right, and you update it, okay, you better check your settings because sometimes uh, the update clears your Supra app, and my app was not connecting with the blue lock boxes, and I had to call tech support and waited 30 minutes. Good thing, before I usually, if I have a buyer appointment today, or in most cases, number one, I update my phone, and I sometimes will you know um, open a lockbox just to make sure it works. Okay, right? I don't do that every time I have an appointment, right? Like if I have an appointment tonight, sometimes I'll just check it. We have lock boxes laying around. Check it, open it. Because now I found out, okay, I better do that every time now. If I have an appointment today, I will update my Supra key and I will open someone's lockbox just to make sure it opens, right? Because imagine if I waited like I'm at the house and it's not working, how professional do I look? I'm calling listing agent says, hey, 10 agents showed it. And why is yours not working? We don't know. So I had to call tech support, Supra, right? Waited about half an hour, you know, um, but that's what it is, right? So if you have Supra, check it out, okay? Open a lockbox today and see if it's still working. If you update, whenever you have an update on your phone, always check it. But even if you don't have an update, check, make sure your Supra key works if you're showing today, okay? Right? And you know how to use it. Okay, and even that, you better know how to use the CBS code, right? Some of you guys on the lock boxes, hopefully you guys understand that, right? That's the extra security measure. Guys, there's a lot to learn in the business, right? Both as a listing agent, as a buyer agent. So for today, right? Consider being a good listing agent. Get that farm package. You know, Brent, you live in San Carlos, you said, right? Or is it Belmont? San Carlos, right? So pick an area already and start door dropping, right? If you can, right? Like I said, some of you guys may not be able to or willing to do that. Then we need to figure out how can you do business, right? There are other ways to get business besides door dropping, door knocking, open houses. Okay, there are many ways. The question is, the best prospecting is what you're willing to do. So on the emails that I've sent you guys, right? There's the 33 ways to get listings with Tom Ferry, right? You guys seen that? Okay. If you don't see it, check my last couple of emails, right? And then there's the, what was it? Every listing, every way to get a listing by Mike Ferry, right? There's several things in there. Yes, you can do 100 deals. To me, that's a great thing that Mike Ferry did, right? That it is possible for someone to do 100 deals, right? And again, you may not want to do 100 deals, right? You may want to do 10 deals. By reading that, it may inspire you to maybe do more or at least do 10 sooner, right? Do 10 deals the first 6 months rather than the whole year, right? Use the time to take summers off. I used to take summers off, and we still try to do, if depending on where our plans are to travel. Guys, we can travel anytime we want to, right? We If we have the business to support it. Okay, guys? Right? So consider becoming a listing agent, right? So look at the handouts that I've sent you guys before.
Sorry to interrupt, Greg. Can you
Yes.
share that email again? This is
Okay.
my first time attending the training, so.
Okay. Do me a favor, text me your contact info later.
Okay, perfect.
And I'll make sure I get it to you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So again, if you want to if you really want to do more deals, listings is the way to go, right? Okay. And I checked now. I've only had the one agent 1 year, right? Where he did over 40 deals. And I think 29 of them were buyers. Okay. Because he had a lot of investors doing flips. Okay. And this was when we had the mortgage meltdown a couple years after that. Okay. So his investors were flipping properties. So that's why he had a lot of buyers. Okay. Because I was like, man, how'd you do so many buyers? Well, they were just calling him. So again, if you have that type of database, it's okay. But here's the thing. He wasn't, I prefer to work with investors. Okay. Half my clients are investors. Okay. It's because it's easier to work with them because there's no emotion. It's all about numbers, typically, right? Again, it's up to you. Not to say that, hey, first time buyers are not good or anything. It's up to you. Okay. Who are you going to deal with? Okay. You should have a list of flippers because there will become a time in the next couple of years we're going to have foreclosures. Maybe not in San Carlos, but there might be one. Like once in a million times, 1 million years, there's going to be a foreclosure in San Carlos, right? It's going to happen once in a while, right? That you're going to see something is happening. Okay. But again, certain areas are more prone to distressed properties because in areas where they put less down payment, right, with 3 or 5, 10% down, and the market turns, sometimes they don't have enough equity to sell, right? Because the moment they miss payments, that adds to the mortgage. Now, they're upside down, and you're going to see foreclosures and short sales. We're already seeing that in the valley. Okay, Bria, question?
Yes, thank you. I did get a couple of investor leads. I'm very new. This is like my
Yes.
first week in the field this week. Um, and I was wondering, is the process different from regular buyers to that buyer? Like, do you need agreement right away? Or is
Yes.
it like, and how does that
Yes.
work?
Okay,
Like,
it's the same thing. Whenever you're dealing with a potential buyer, the BRBC, the employment agreement, is a normal conversation in the beginning. Because if you do it now, that remember you're supposed to have a BRBC or an employment agreement, BRBC or PSRA, before you show a house, right? If you want to get paid, right? Because if you go retroactive, like you show a house and then you say, hey, by the way, here's our BRBC, the buyer can say, nope, sorry, I'm not going to pay you. It can happen.
okay.
And technically, you're breaking the law because it is a law. The law says before you show a house, you're supposed to have a representation agreement. And more specifically, if you want to get paid, that's the main reason. You can show houses and not get paid.
Okay.
No big deal.
Would
But
this, like, for an
okay.
investor, someone who's probably like having a bunch of people look for houses for them, would it be
Yeah, you would
okay to
have
have a non-exclusive agreement, but
correct.
still have
There
it
you
where
go.
you get paid?
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I,
you
okay,
need
that
to have
makes
a non-exclusive, right? Non-exclusive mean okay. Who can explain to me the difference between an exclusive BRBC and a non-exclusive? Remember, the PSRA is automatically non-exclusive, right? The BRBC has the option to make it exclusive by marking a box, right? So what's the difference? What's my analogy?
Exclusive means the buyer is
You can
supposed
say
to work with you only with one agent. Non-exclusive is that like he can work with multiple agents, or like specific, like he can work with one agent for just one property, but he's open to work with other agents for other properties.
okay.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay. Okay. That's close. That's
Basically,
close. What else?
if they sign an exclusive agency agreement with you, that means that they will be exclusively not only working with you, but they will owe you any kind of compensation. If you have a non-exclusive agency, then it's open for other agents to come in and pretty much take that compensation away from you.
Okay. That's close.
I want to add, exclusive also have a term that if the property, like if they buy from anywhere, they owe you a commission if they have exclusive, even
Okay.
if they go through you or no. I think
All
so.
right. Okay. What else? Anybody else?
That's what I said.
All right. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Anyone else have anything else? We're good. All right. So here's the scenario, right? Okay. We all know the difference between the PSRA and the BRBC, right? As a review, PSRA maximum 30 days, BRBC maximum 90 days, right? So don't do a 120-day, 1 year BRBC. It's invalid. Okay, 90 days is the max. Okay, calendar days. So make sure you count 30. If there's 31 days in July, right? You count that extra day, because if the lawyer gets a hold of that, or the buyer says, hey, this is invalid because it's 91 days because you counted wrong, then that may be true. Okay, so they can challenge that. So make sure maximum 30, maximum 90. PSRA maximum 3 houses. BRBC unlimited, right? Although it could be just one house if you want. You can have an exclusive for one house. If Brent calls me on my listing, right? One of my first question is, hey Brent, how did you find out about the property? Oh, I was driving by it, he says. I said, great. Hey, by the way, do you have an agent? He can say whatever he wants, right? He can lie to me. He can tell me the truth. If he says, "Oh, yes, I'm working with Emma at Intero," I said, "Perfect. Do you have an agreement with? Do you have an employment agreement with her?" I use the word employment, right? I don't use the word buyer broker agreement. You could use it if you want. You can say BRBC if you want. I use simple words. Basically, Brent, let me ask you: if I show you the house and you like it, am I going to write the offer for you? Or do you have an agent that's going to write the offer for you? If he says, no, Greg, you're going to write the offer, perfect. I'm going to send you our employment agreement that basically says that if I show you this house and you like it, that I will be your exclusive agent for this property. Are you okay with that? Can you please sign it before we meet at the property? And by the way, please send me your pre-approval letter, right? So I can make sure that you have the best loan product to purchase this property. Okay, that's how usually my conversation is, right? I want to draw out the people that says, oh, because before the BRBC, before the buyer reps came out, I started using buyer representation agreement about 10 years ago. Okay, it's because I always ask them, hey, do you have an agent? And sometimes they lie, right? Or they don't know any better. And next thing I know, there's a offer faxed into my office, right? You don't want that happening. So that's why you ask them.
What,
If I show you this, hold on, Emma, if I show you this house, am I going to write the offer for you? You got to ask that question. And if they say yes to that, because that's what you want, right? Because anything but a yes, I'm going to say, please call your agent. Oh, he's out of the country. Please call somebody else. Because if I show you the house, I'm going to be the agent writing the offer for you. Fair enough? But that's illegal, they may say, right? No, there's no illegal about it. You have the choice to have an agent show you the house. And again, you have the right to find your own agent. Okay. But if you want me to do the work as a buyer agent, I'm going to need you to pay me like a buyer agent. Fair enough? Because my sellers pay me as a seller's agent. Okay. So again, know how to answer the different. See, this is where I want you guys now to come up with your own objections so we can role play it. But if you're not meeting people out there, you're not going to get the objections. Are we clear? See, you guys got to do the work so I can help you overcome these things, right? We have Alfredo here from Pleasanton. Right? He's the leader in Pleasanton, right? You guys know him. He has a role play class that he does every Wednesday. You guys got to attend those classes, okay? But again, if you're not using the things we're teaching you, how are you going to get better? Right? Because you only get better by doing things, right? Okay. You guys know Shaquille O'Neal, right? The big guys, right? Some of you guys who watch basketball, right? Shaq. He says, he's a bad free throw shooter, right? Because he has a broken wrist and things like that, right? His mechanics are wrong, right? But he makes more than 50%, and he gets paid millions of dollars before, right? Someone recommended him, to shoot underhand, right? Just like some of you guys know, who's it? Barry, some from the Golden State Warriors, right? I forget his name. Something Barry. I forget his first name. Rick Barry. Rick Barry, right? Rick Barry, right? So thank you, John. Right? Yeah, Rick Barry, right? He shoots underhand with two, right? Some people like a girl, they say, right? But hey, he has a very high percentage, right? Because here's the thing: if you make more free throws, right, you make more money, right? So you got to take the shot. You got to be more better in conversion. So when we meet people out there, how good are we? How good are we with our mechanics, meaning our dialogues, our conversations, right? Can we connect with people? Because again, the more people we talk to, the more chances we get. Our goal is to get those opportunities, right? Convert them more. Okay, Rishan, question.
Thank you. Going back to
I had a
BRBC and
question.
Hold on, Emma. Hold on. I'll get you.
going back to BRBC,
All right.
PSRA,
Mm-hmm.
PSRA is non-exclusive,
Automatically.
and BRBC can also be non-exclusive.
Automatically. You have the option to make it exclusive,
Right.
right? So the
why would-
BRBC has the option.
Why would anybody choose PSRA?
Well, because okay, so here's the thing. Okay, remember the exclusivity question, right? Um, remember what is the difference? Okay, if it's exclusive, you cannot have overlap. Okay, meaning if I as a buyer, I can hire Brent for San Carlos, right? I can hire Clementina for Belmont. I can hire Emma for San Jose, right? For any property. So basically citywide, any property, commercial, whatever, right? It could be that broad. Or I can have an exclusive agreement with Brent for San Carlos for single family. I can have um, a BRBC exclusive with Clementina for San Carlos for commercial. So now there's no overlap. Same overlap in cities, but not the same property type. Okay? As long as there's no clear overlap, that's why you want to ask people, hey, can I see your representation agreement? So you can see if there's any overlap whatsoever, right? Very few people will have multiple BRBCs exclusive, right? Because they don't know the intricacies. But you can have, it's kind of like this. Brent can have a wife in California. He can have one in Utah, as long as they don't talk, right? Okay. So again, if no one is the wiser, right? Then it doesn't really matter if it's exclusive or not. But bottom line, the exclusivity protects your commission for that specific type of property cities, right? So that's why you got to make sure there's no overlap. Okay. If it's non-exclusive, right? That's like an open relationship. This is when Larry can have, wives all over the place. Right? I'm just kidding. Not because that's he can date anyone anywhere, right? That's what he means, right? Okay. So again, non-exclusive means, you guys know what non-exclusive means, right? So it's like whoever brings me to the altar, whoever finds me the house gets paid. That's what non-exclusive is, right? So that's why I always ask the buyer, hey, if I show you the house, am I going to be your agent to write the offer? Simple answer, yes or no. And if it is a yes, here's my exclusive agreement. Okay? Are we clear on those forms? Okay, let me get Melissa and then Emma. Melissa?
So you said that on the PSRA there you can only list three, but there's a little box where you can add more
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah, you can add technically a whole list of properties, but technically it's meant for three or less. That's what it's meant for. Okay? But yeah, you can have a whole list of 10 properties if you want. They made that change. Okay? Right? Again, the PSA came out because it was a shortcut, right? That people wanted. The BRC is, it's not that much more. The only difference is, like I said, it's the 90 days and the exclusivity option. Okay? Are we good? Lisa? Okay. All right. Emma, question.
Okay, going back to the previous conversation that we were having, you mentioned something about how you would word it, and you mentioned something about signing. Are you signing with someone, or have you signed with someone? Do you recall that? Because I like
Yes.
the intro and I want to write it down.
Yeah. Well, you can watch the recording. It's good. All right. So basically, every buyer that I ask is like, hey, how did you find out the property? Do you have an agent? Right. And even if they say yes, I said perfect. Right. If they say no, perfect. Same thing. Right. Okay. If I show you this house, am I going to be the agent representing you and writing the offer for you? They say yes, perfect. But I'll be sending you, our representation agreement. Okay, that says that if I show you the house and you like it, I'll be your agent. Fair
Are
enough.
you talking to them during the open house? Or are you
No,
talking?
usually it's when they call me, or on an open house, I don't need a BRBC, right? Unless they want me to show you them another house, right? Whenever a buyer calls me, right, and they want me to show a house, I will have that conversation because I want to make sure, hey, where do I stand? Now, if it's my listing and his and her agent is out of the country, I may show the house because it's going to sell my listing. But if I have 10 other potential buyers, I'm not going to waste my time with her. Does it make sense? All right. I want to make sure the effort that I put in benefits my client, right? Either my seller or in this case, the buyer. Because the buyer may say, why should I sign with you? Right? You know, why should I work with you exclusively? We'll talk about that towards the end, okay? Because you got to be ready for that. Why should I sign a represent? I've never done this. The other agents never required me to do this. Why should I do this with you? Those are the type of questions I need to hear from you guys, and then we can role play certain dialogues. You guys can talk to your manager or your other agents. Hey, how do you respond to this?
Yeah,
Fine.
I
Okay.
had my first presentation
Yeah.
um
Okay.
last Friday.
Yeah. So again, you need to know what the objections are. Okay.
Hi,
Bonita.
Craig.
Bonita first, and then Larry. Bonita, you had a question? No. Okay. Lost her. Okay.
Actually, I do have a question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So let's say that the buyer has they come through an open house or something. They do have an agreement with someone that represents them in
Okay.
Oakland, but just in general, the city of Oakland. But they're coming to look at a specific house. Can I represent them for that particular house or no?
Again,
No,
what type of agreement do they have, right? Remember, if the agreement that they have, that's why I always ask, oh, great. So you already have a representation agreement with another agent. Perfect. Can you send me a copy of that? I want to make sure we don't have an overlap, that I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, right? Because I want to make sure you're
Um,
not paying two buyer commission. That you're not paying them and paying me. I want to protect them,
okay,
right? That's why I
right.
asked Bonita, I need to see that. Why do I need to see that? Well, I want to make sure that you're not paying two buyer commission accidentally. Because if you hire me and the other agent already has an employment agreement with you, you may end up paying both of us a commission for one house. So can you please send that to me? And usually
Okay.
they'll remove that unclarity, or they say, well, let me talk to my agent first. Or right. So again, I don't want to be wasting my time specifically, but also I don't want to waste the client's time. Okay, Bonita? Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Melissa?
I just have a comment. I
Sure.
had a buyer who I ended up signing with me, worked with another agent for over a year, but that agent never had her sign a contract or BRBC because they were quote unquote friends.
Hmm?
Person later found out that they bought the house and told my buyer, you need to tell your agent they need to give me 25%
Yeah.
of a referral fee.
Hmm.
I'm not giving them nothing. They should have had you sign a contract.
Okay. And you're not alone. We have agents in our company who's that has fallen in that trap. They didn't do a BRBC with their buyer, and the buyer bought with someone else. It happens. So that's why, great job, Melissa. Right? It's important to have that conversation, and you need to draw it out, because this is where they're going to say, how much commission are you going to give me? Right? I mean, all of those objections are going to come out, and this is where you guys need to get all these type of objections. And again, handle it however you're going to handle it. Bottom line is you need to be prepared now. Remember, luck, preparation meets opportunity, right? When someone gives you an objection, that's an opportunity to close, right? That means there's an interest level. We just go work out the details, right? Right? Okay, right? When I was single, a girl tells me, I'm not interested. I gotta know, was that a no, a maybe, right? I gotta, so again, remember, my wife didn't like me the first time, right? It was a no. That's okay, right? But it wasn't a strict no. That's what you want, right? Right. So again, guys, when people tell you, "I already have an agent," like oh, I've been working with an agent, like Melissa said, right? Hey, did you have an employment agreement? What's going on? What's the history? Because when you ask a buyer, how long have you been looking? How many offers have you written? That will tell you a lot, right? Oh, who's been showing you these homes? Yeah, are they just going to open houses, or is there an agent? Oh, we just called the listing agent. Oh, that's interesting. Do you have your own exclusive buyer agent yet? Oh, no. Oh, so how do you plan to make the offer? Well, we'll figure that out when we find the right house. Did you know you could be at a disadvantage by not having a buyer agent? What do you mean? I'm at a disadvantage. Do you guys know why a buyer is at a disadvantage by having no buyer agent? Mhm.
Not knowing the contracts.
Right? Okay. You got to have an answer for that. That goes back to that question of, hey, why should I hire you?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Craig.
Yes,
Before you
there.
move on from the buyer's broker agreement, so if I'm working with the client, they're pre-approved for 700,000, and I have a buyer's broker agreement for a couple of weeks, but then they decide to buy over $1 million. So
Mhm.
they add a sibling or significant other, um, and they're asking me to write an offer. So do I, even if I showed them the home and I'm going to write a buyer's broker agreement after I showed them the home, is that still valid?
Okay, so let me get the timing right. Right. So you initially had a BRBC with one party. Now
Correct.
they added somebody else,
Correct.
and they increased the price above your BRBC.
Correct.
All right. Okay. Usually, when you add someone, you should do either an amendment to the BRBC, or if they change the price. So you're covered. Because technically the employment agreement only applies to whatever that form says. Since the brother was not part of the BRBC, he's not obligated to pay you, right? Even if the terms of that BRBC are met, like the price was changed and all that. Okay, this is
So
where hold on. This is where if you have a husband and wife, you need both signatures. Okay, so don't say, "Oh, I make all the decisions." No, no, no. I understand you're the one that's going to be making decision, Larry, but your wife is going to need to be on title, correct? Well, that's why we need her to be on the employment agreement also, because she's going to be needing to sign all the other paperwork. Okay. And yeah,
so
and people have tried to get out of that with me. Okay. And I just have to explain to them, well, this is how we work. In order for you to hire me and our company, we need to have all parties on the contract. Okay. This is our company policy. And all the parties needs to be on the contract because they're going to need to be signing everything. Okay. Right. So just
so
understand that, right? Okay. So if you have to add someone later, okay, as long as it has not expired, you can make additions or changes to that BRBC or PSRA. Okay. But once that form has expired, you have to make a new one. Let's say it's not even expired, and Larry decides, oh, let me just redo this. You can do that. Okay, with everybody with a higher price. Okay, you can always redo the BRBC. Okay, but if you do it retroactively, okay, right, retroactively, meaning you do the BRBC after you've shown the house, okay, you can still make changes. Let's say you have to add a cosigner or something. That's a reality, okay, and they just need to be added to the BRBC at that time, okay, because the actual buyers were the ones who saw it. Let's say this is the husband and wife. They're just adding the brother now for co-signing purposes. Okay, it's okay to go retroactive with him. Okay, because he came to the picture late. Okay, all right, Larry, does that make sense?
yeah, it does. So
Okay.
if I haven't written the offer, is it okay just to redo the whole buyer's broker
Yes,
agreement with? Okay,
correct.
great.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Husband
Bishop?
and wife, if they have to have separate BRBCs.
No,
Okay.
It's the same BRBC.
Same BRBC,
Yeah.
but it needs to
I
be
mean-
sent to separate email account.
Yes. Okay,
That's-
remember, guys, when you do digital signing, you're supposed to have separate email addresses,
It won't work the same.
right? Okay. The system will not allow you to send, to husband and wife on the same email, right? So you have to help them do. Now, if they say, I don't do email, I'll send it to my husband. No, then we have to meet.
Yes.
Okay. All right. If you don't have email, then let's meet. Okay. Now, I can have that BRBC printed, and before I open the door, I can have them sign it. Right? So, again, the purpose of the BRBC is so it protects you getting paid. Right? So, the moment you show a house without a representation agreement, then you risk not getting paid and potentially getting fined. Okay? You get fined if you try to collect. If you don't try to collect, then no one's the wiser. It's no big deal, but it can happen. Okay, there's people that's been fined not following the law. Remember, it's a law. Okay, it's a California law now, as of last year. Okay, so okay, so let me ask you this, right? Let's say my wife wants to see a house, right? Your spouse wants to see a house, right? Do you need a BRBC?
Yes.
Technically, you're supposed to have one.
Mhm.
Let's say you don't. What would happen? Well, your commission is not protected. So if your spouse decides not to pay you, right, okay, right, okay. So that's what that means. Okay, guys. So um, it's just like if July 4th, right?
We move
You're
on.
right. You're driving on the freeway, right? You're everyone's going above the speed limit, but the police officer pulls you over, and you say, "Hey, why'd you pull me over? I was going the flow of traffic." What do you think the officer is going to say?
You're going over the speed limit.
Right? You broke the law, right? Because you're over the speed limit, right? So bottom line, guys, is know the laws, right? If you're gonna break them, you better know what the penalties are and be prepared to, pay the penalties. Okay. So you guys know what is now with the buyers. Okay. All right. So let's wrap up our conversation with regards to the sellers, right? You guys need to have the mindset of I want to become a listing agent, right? So as we talked about earlier, I need you guys to be door dropping minimum 1,000 houses per month. Okay, if not up to 1,500 houses per month. Door dropping minimum. Door knocking would be better. So you can now start to get your database going, meaning they need to see you. They need to put a face to that flyer. Okay. And you need to figure out, is this a good farm? Okay. Is this a good area to get future listings? Not this year, not next year, maybe even the 3 years from now, but you need to start somewhere. That's going to be your base. Okay. Part of this program is to have a base of potential listings in the future in a certain area that's close to where you live or work. Okay. Because if you don't, then you're going to be new every single year. Okay. Right. You're always looking for new business, which is not a bad way because that's going to be in addition to that. Okay. So if you're not doing a farm right now where you're just at least door dropping, if not, remember, we door drop, then we door knock to meet them. Once we met them, we put them in our newsletter system. Now they're getting more than just a door drop, right? They're getting an actual newsletter. Remember, uh, next week we'll talk about what you should put in your flyers, okay? So again, make sure that you find that farm already. Okay? If you're having trouble figuring out where that farm is, let me know, or why you don't want one. Let's have that conversation, okay? Because you need to have one. So by next week, I need you to draw up in Google Map where that farm is. I need to see. I need you to have your title rep get me the 5-year history of sales in that area. Remember, that was the homework from last week, okay? All right. If you don't have it by next week, yeah, guys, you're way behind now, okay? Um, get me that farm package and let's talk about your stats, right? Because if there's first 1,500 homes, there should at least be 50 to 75 sales happening every single year. If you don't have 50 sales in 1,500 homes, then you may want to consider figuring out why that's not happening. Is it a good area or is it just primed to become ripe to be picked? right? Is the fruit getting ripe? Is it just they're getting ready to pop? Because there are some areas that is that way where most of the people that moved in when their kids were in elementary, now they're past high school, they're empty nesters, they're getting ready to move out. We need to figure it out. Is that an area? What I want you guys to find is an area where there's good turnover. Okay. Around 3 to 5, 7% turnover. Okay. That way we have a greater chance of getting those deals. Okay. So like in Half Moon Bay, we have like 1% sales turnover because either it's a vacation home, right? Like a second home, or people don't move out. Okay. But there's enough, there's like 20 sales a month. So now how do we get a portion of that? Well, we're starting to farm these areas, right? Like we have a farm where, it's the people that have ocean views, right? So it's specific, right? We're not targeting, non-special homes, right? So we're looking at, special properties. So because that's what people want, closer to the beach, right? With a view. So now we target those. Do we neglect the other neighbors? No, we still mail to them, but there we do special mailing for the people that we want to target. Okay, so and you can do the same thing. All right, so get that farm package done. Right, start the 100-point system. Right, do your business plan. Okay, and of course, make sure you read the handouts about figuring out what pillars of business are you going to do, because we need to have that conversation, right? Just like we had the conversation with Twinkle last week about her event, right? And then her farm, right? Again, there's different things that we can do that you guys can also learn from each other, right? Because remember, you have to do what you think you can do. Okay, if you're not willing to do if you're not willing to do the ice cream truck, the taco truck, then let's figure out what can you do. What are you doing? And what I don't want to happen is you're not doing anything and you're not growing, right? Okay, because you can be a forever student until you apply what you learn, right? That's only potential knowledge, okay, or potential power. Okay. Okay. So questions about listings, how to get listings, where to get them.
Sure.
Do you have your farm? Everybody? Right?
Got the package.
Get me your package to me, right? I want, give me the stats, right? So,
Did you send the package in the email for last week, or?
It was on the class from last week. So I'll send you guys the recordings and also give you guys a list of things at the end, right? Well, what you need. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I missed last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how many of you guys have the stats right now? Like how many houses do you have? How many sales are happening year by year the last 5 years? That's what you need to find out. And your title rep can get you that info. Okay. So call your title rep today. Tell them, okay, this is my farm. Can I have the 5 year stats? How many sales happened the last 5 year, every single year? You need to have a history. Okay. Because just because there was no sales last year doesn't mean it's a bad area. Or just because there's 10 last year, 50 the year before, we need to figure out why that was. Okay. Right?
Greg,
Okay.
I have a quick question when you have
Yes, Emma.
So my question is, you mentioned something about the role playing. Are they doing the role playing for the listing presentation and the buyer?
Yes. Generally, it's for listings. Our focus is listings, but we don't neglect buyers, right? In case there's something specific that you want to role play or you want to talk about. Okay. But specifically, the scripts are primarily tailored towards listings, right? But again, you can change those dialogues into a buyer conversation. It's the same thing. Okay. So
When is this role playing?
It's Wednesdays in Pleasanton. Okay. So yeah, it's in Pleasanton. So it's a live class.
Okay.
Again, the role playing happens either with you by yourself, reading the scripts out loud, right? Number two, find someone in your office or from another office to where you guys can role play together, right? Number three, we have audio training, video training with their scripts, okay? And then number four, you just go out there and practice on the public. They don't know you're practicing.
But what you want to do is not practice on them because you want to convert that more, right? But hey, they don't know you don't know, or do they? Right? So hopefully they don't know that you don't know, right? Okay, so let's finish up with listings for our conversations today, right? You guys need to get that farm package of 1,000 to 1,500 homes, at least 1,000 homeowners. That's the key. At least 1,000 homeowners, which is about 1,500 houses. Figure out where that area is, where within 5 to 10 miles, excuse me, of where you live or work. Talk to your rep and get the stats. Okay, the stats are 5-year history of sales for each of those farms. You can have 250 here, 500 here, but try to keep it close. If not, as long as it's segregated to no more than 5 areas. Okay, because I don't want you guys driving too much. Okay, but again, it's up to you where you want those areas to be. Okay, now with that, remember, I need you guys to do your 2026 easy business plan. Really define how much money do you really want to earn, right? On a rolling 12-month basis. Number three, I want you guys to complete your 25, excuse me, your pillars of happiness, right? Do the exercise of what you're going to do with the money you're going to earn. Because I need you guys to create that vision board. Remember the vision board, right? Pictures of things that you really want. You need to visualize the things that you want, the trips that you want to go on, the vehicles, the house, the purse, the watch that you have. You need to make it real, right? Because eventually you're going to need to, look at your bank account, right? Remember that assignment that we did when we did the financial plan? I want you to get your latest statement, right? Checking statement, savings statement. Either add some zeros or add some numbers before. Yeah. How does it feel, right? They say there's a stat out there that most people don't have $1,000 in their bank account, right? Most people don't. They live paycheck to paycheck. Okay. If something happens, it's like they're struggling, right? Which is an unfortunate thing. In real estate, we say you should have at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses, right? I say you should have at least a year, right? Figure out what it costs you to live. And we're going to do this exercise in a couple of weeks. What is your living expense? Your true living expense, right? And we need to know what that number is. And some people forget to put their savings number. Right? They say, oh, this, when I was young, I was like, oh, my monthly is like my car insurance, and that's it. Because I live with my parents, right? But there's food, there's other things, right? But as a single guy, young single guy, it's easy to say, hey, I don't need to sell. I can just enjoy life. But see, if you're ambitious, see, that's the time to set up your things. It's when you don't have that mortgage pressure, that family pressure, right? Now is the time to set these things in place. So let's go back to your schedule now, right? I need to see your perfect day in real estate. Some of you guys have not sent it yet. I need you to start to draft it. What does your perfect day in real estate really look like? What is your perfect day? What time you wake up? What time you go to bed, right? What time you start work? What time you end work? When does your prospecting happen? Preferably, right? When does your learning happen? When do you check the MLS? When does that happen? I need to see that in your day, right? And then we can start to review, okay, how can you not move things around, right? Okay. Because you're going to have a perfect week, meaning a weekly schedule, right? What does your week looks like? Okay. So we'll spend a lot of time that on next week. Okay. So hopefully you guys have your perfect day and perfect week by next week. Okay. At least a draft. Okay. Because you need to see what your week looks like. Because if you work at a W-2 job, right, you get to, like if you work at a bank, you get in at 9, you get out at 5, what we call banker's hours. They get in earlier before 9, they stay after 5, but typically that's their hours, 9 to 5, right? That's what banker's hours are. That's 8 hours. Okay. Now, is that your day? Now, for some of you, it's cut up because you have kids, or at least come September, it's going to be breaking apart because you have to feed them, you have to pick them up, drop them off, right? You have to figure out your schedule. And here's the thing, whatever's not on your schedule does not exist. right? There's that saying, okay? Whatever is not on your schedule does not exist. So what's on your schedule? What's on your schedule takes priority, right? Not to say that things can, come up and you have to change it up. You're supposed to prospect, but your doctor is only available at this time, or your kids are sick at home, so you can't door drop or door knock today. That's okay. But see, it cannot last weeks. You cannot be off your schedule for weeks at a time. Days at a time is okay, right? But when it become weeks and months, then you're in trouble, right? Okay. Because imagine that if you were someone's employee and you were off your schedule that long, you'll be fired, right? So again, it's all about that results. It's all about that activity. It's about following that plan. It's what are your goals, right? Someone who wants to do 25 is different than someone who wants to do 10 deals, right? Their activities are going to be different, okay? And you're going to tell me what those are, right? Because you're going to be writing it down so you know what you're saying you're committed to, okay? All right. So make sure you have your schedules down, okay? You have your business plan, okay? Because your business plan supports your schedule. Because if you want to earn 100, 200,000, does your schedule show that? Does your activities show that? Because it will show up on your 100 point day plan, system, right? The 100 point. Because we will see, where are you spending your day? Are you spending all day training? That's okay for a couple weeks, couple days. But it can't be 8, 10 hours of training. That can only last so long. See, most of my training happened outside the normal working hours, meaning it was before or after work. You guys are lucky you have the internet. You don't have to go buy DVDs or VHS or go fly somewhere for seminars. Typically, everything is online. Okay, so you have that advantage. So now the question is, are you listening to the recordings, you know, at any point, or other training that we're going to be doing? Remember, how many of you guys got your YouTube Premium subscription ready? Okay, hopefully you have that next week so you don't have commercials, because there's going to be a lot of YouTube training that I'm going to be sending you guys this week and next week that you're going to be, needing to as part of the class. Okay, so if for some reason I don't have your info, Bria, Hergun, and let's see, I think I have everybody else, right? So if this is like your first session, or you're not getting my email. If you didn't get this morning's email, you're definitely not on my system. So make sure you let me know. Okay, you guys have my number because you somehow got on this Zoom, right? So I'm assuming you got the uh, email. Okay, so send me your email and also your cell number. Okay, text it to me at 510-475-7500. Okay, texting is the best way to reach me. All right, so that's what you need to be working on this week. Right now, by now, you should know the scripts, specifically the Mike Ferry basic scripts. Right, we're talking about the just listed, just sold, which is pretty much the same. Right, you have the expired scripts, the for sale by owner scripts, the prequel script, right, and then the listing presentation, the 1 minute, and then the full pricing presentation script. If you don't know what those are, make sure you reach out to me. You should know the Mike Ferry seller scripts, because next week we're going to spend time on objection handling, meaning what objections do you fear getting? There's 40 basic objections that Mike Ferry has in his book. That's his basic answers, but there are other ways to answer the same objection. Okay, you need to review those script books. There's at least 5 of them on the email. Okay, that you need to look through and get the words. Okay, because part of role play is knowing the words. So part of learning is knowing what to say. If you know what to say, you can then practice how to say it, how to deliver it. Okay, it's like telling a joke. You need to know the script of the joke. Right, you need to know the words. Once you know the words, then you can practice delivering it. What is delivery? It's timing, is the intonation, the body language, the facial expressions. That's what the delivery is. If you ever watch a good comedian, right? Sometimes they will laugh at their own joke to get the crowd to laugh because they didn't laugh the first time, right? So that's part of the trick. But also, some comedians are very good at libbing, right? Like if someone heckles them or bothers their set, they know how to deal with people. With just like your client will say something, and they'll throw you off the track. You need to be able to get back on track and address their concerns, right? Just like someone will say something about the commission or your experience during your presentation. You need to know how to set that aside. But how do you set that aside if you don't know your materials? So you need to know your materials. That's where scripting really comes in. Okay. Again, you have your own scripts now. We suggest you learn the scripts we're teaching you as a base. And then from there, you can now make changes as needed. Okay. So any question about scripts? Anybody have any problems learning scripts? Okay. Emma put something on the chat, so let me read it. Okay. 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 So questions about scripts? No questions? So you guys are open to learning it? You will learn it? Yes.
Is there for scripts for like phone call follow-ups or objections in that? Like,
Yeah. There
yeah.
are some things in there, right? But most of the things you're going to learn, Bria, is by asking me, like, what's the scenario,
Okay.
right? Like,
Okay.
hey, this buyers, are avoiding me or they're saying this. You need to bring that to us, and sometimes if we don't answer it on the call, we'll bring it to the next call so other people can learn from your experience. Like we said before, you guys will have different experiences. You will learn, you will need to learn from each other. And
Okay.
that's where the classroom comes in because Bria will have an objection, Emma would have one, and you're going to get that like 3 months from now, right? And
Yeah.
something will hopefully you'll remember this conversation from 3 months ago, right? But see, you need to be, everyone that needs to have a book of scripts, right? Camille,
Yeah. Okay.
question,
Well,
Camille?
I asked coming from I really want open house to be one of my pillars. I know that's not what
Okay.
we do forward, but I love it.
Yeah.
And I thrive at it with
Hmm?
the interaction with people, but
Yes.
I didn't really have a true script. I just went with my, as much as I've learned over
Hmm.
the course of the last few weeks and
Okay.
YouTube University. So
So,
now that I have follow up,
mhm.
I did the reach out, thank you for coming text.
All right.
Now I'm in the place of I need to call and do follow ups, and I have no idea how to convert that to client
Okay.
official.
Remember the Ford concept, guys. Okay. FORD. Okay. Get to know them, personal, social, then business, right? If
Mm-hmm.
all you're following up to them is Bria is about real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna get old.
Okay.
So, like I said, this week, most of my follow-up calls is gonna start. So, how was your 4th of July weekend? What did you guys do? Where did you find fireworks? Okay. And then, by the way, you came to our open house, 3 weeks ago, last weekend. It's going to depend on the actual conversations that we've had with that buyer, right? But your opening line cannot be, say, just wanted to follow up on the open house. Okay. Get to know them personal first, right? So before I answer Camille's question, Bria, do you have a scenario that you want to talk about? Like, where's the challenge for you in the lead follow up?
I think that was it. Really, just that pressure of first follow up with personal, like, hey, how was your weekend? That helps.
Hmm?
It was just more so conversion because I had a few different clients that showed up. Well, people that showed up, leads that showed up with different desires. Right? There was a
Yeah.
couple of investors, a couple of I want this for someone who to live close, right?
Okay.
And then there was just looking.
Yeah. And this is where we have to be careful. When we meet people at open houses, sometimes we think they're serious. We
Mm-hmm.
need to qualify them better, right? And
Mm-hmm.
more. Because sometimes you're gonna, oh, I'm looking for somebody. You're spending all this time, and that somebody don't exist, or you know, even if it's for them, sometimes they're too picky, right? And you're gonna waste a lot of time. Okay. And this is where, see, as a buyer, you can't control where you have to drive,
Mm-hmm.
right? As a listing agent, you control where you drive because it's your farm. You know where you're going. There's no, oh, I
Okay.
want to see this, I want to see that. Does that make sense? This is where sometimes as a listing agent, as a seller agent, it's easier to control your day because you know what you're going to, where you're going, and you know what you need to do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So Bria, if you have any buyers that's we have buyer scripts.
Okay.
Check on the emails that I've sent, or if you don't, let me know.
Okay.
But there's buyer scripts. But again, guys, not everything is on the script books. A lot of it is going to depend on what you've been talking to them about and how you interact. That's why I would say bring it to myself, Alfredo, or the leadership team, or any agent in the office. Hey, Bria, how would you handle this? I got this buyer. This is what they said. How would you respond?
Mm.
It depends on the scenario, right? We also have to understand context, right? But if someone is ghosting you, right, and this is where to me you gotta uh, send them things outside real estate, right? Like, hey, have a good happy Fourth of July weekend. Some of them will just respond like it. Some of them will just totally ignore it. You don't know. Remember, we're looking for engagement.
Okay.
Right? That's all we're doing, guys. We're looking for engagement. Right. So that's why we need to know what to send. So every week there's a thought that I'm going to give you guys. Just like this week, it's about, hey, just whoever you talk to today. Hey, how was your 4th of July weekend? You're door knocking. Hi, my name's Greg. I'm a local realtor. We just happen to be in the area. Again, if you're door knocking, you're either just listed, just sold, looking for a buyer for more listings for a buyer. You're inviting them to an open house, or you're telling them about what happened in the open house. So, like
Mhm.
Bria, door knock the area. Remember, the purpose of the open house is to get business outside the open house.
Yeah.
Okay, and not for people coming in. That's bonus. Okay, guys. Okay. All right. So more questions open house. We have a class on that. We have some recordings. So again, if you guys have issues with open house, ask me at the end. But let me get to Camille before we wrap up. Okay, Camille.
Yes, can you send me the recent Mike Perry handbook that was at the live seminar in San Diego?
Oh, okay. Remind me. Text me. Okay. You said you.
All right.
I know you said that to me last week. See, now see, I forgot, right? So text me. Yeah. Whenever you ask something of someone, make sure you do follow up. Good lead follow up, right? A friendly reminder, right? And this goes with also with when you're following up with people, right? So I want you guys to bring your challenges with regards to follow up. Like, hey, I've been calling this guy, and this is what's happening. What else can I do? Right? That's where experience will help you, but we can give you some input, but we need to have context. Okay. Um, so remember before the order of your calls or your prospecting goes this way, right? Who are the most motivated sellers or out there? Expires and for sale by owner. Okay. So if you at the end, I'm going to show you guys a couple websites that you should go to get if you want to subscribe to a service. Okay. Second is your leads, right? These are people you've spoken to before that has shown interest. People you met at open houses, people you met at door knocking, right? These are people that you've met that says, hey, yeah, yeah, keep in touch, right? That's what I call a lead, right? Someone that showed interest and that you need to be following up with. These are typically anyone who's going to do business with you within the next 30 to 90 days that you need to pay special attention to. Okay. These are the first calls to make. The third group is your COI, SOI, right? Your circle of influence, your sphere of influence, right? Basically, people that know you, right? You need to get their forward together. These are people that says, yeah, keep in touch. I'm going to retire here in 30 years. Yeah, keep in touch though. Now, some people say, why would I want to keep in touch with someone who's never going to sell? You never know. Things happen, right? Life happens. Today they're happy, tomorrow they're not. 5 years from now, they're not. Plus, you can leverage them for potential referrals. Remember, these are people you used to work with them. These are friends from church, basketball, wherever, right? These are people that are not hot leads. That's number two, right? So that's three, right? So two is the hot leads, the ones who's gonna do something. Some of those COIs are gonna be number twos. Hopefully they're not number ones, like your listings expire, okay? You don't want that, but it happens because you took a bad listing, okay? So third is the COIs. Fourth is everybody else. And typically that's your farm, okay? That you're trying to get people into, make them your COI, right? Remember, your COI, your circle is the people you've met, plan to meet, right? That are people from your farm that you put into your database. That they've said, yeah, keep in touch. Because those are the people you're mailing, are these three. Okay? Now, why would you be mailing an expired? If it's in my neighborhood, they may not be ready today, but they're going to be ready next year. And so our plans changed because our kids decided they want to stay here, or my job transfer didn't happen. That's why it expired, or that's why we took it off the market. Great, perfect. Okay, great. Well, as a local agent, I'd love to keep in touch. Um, our office is in Union City. You're in Fremont, so I'd love to keep in touch, keep you abreast of the market. Is that okay if I kept in touch? Yeah, great. By the way, what's your email address? Right, if you can get that, you already have their number because you subscribe to a service or you somehow got their number. Right? If not, you're door knocking it and you want to get their number. Because I know some of you guys have door knock expires and for sale by owners, right? And typically you have their phone number, you have their address, you have their name. Now you just gotta get their email. Now you can market to them. Because if you have people's contact info, you can market to them. The only question is, do you have a marketing system to do it? So that's why I want to talk to you guys on a weekly basis. What are you doing? Okay. We know how to find people, right? We have the tax record, title company, MLS. We have that, right? Number two, we have a mailing program, correct?
Yes.
TPMCO, right? That should be set up. Number three, you should have an email program, sending emails. With your MIT in the office, that should be going automatically. You put the email in the system, it runs. Okay? If they're a potential buyer or some sellers, you want to set them up on Real Scout. Right? Because Real Scout is our listing alert system. As a seller, you can set it up to where you can send a monthly email of listings happening in their area every 30 days. You should know how to do that. And if you don't, you need to ask. Okay? Talk to your MIT. And if they don't know, your manager is there. If he doesn't know or they don't know, ask me. Right? You should be able to do both. Both for a buyer, that's easy, right? Everyone does Real Scout for buyers, right? Do you know how to do it for sellers? You got to ask. Okay? We can show you. It's very easy. Right? Why do you want to do that? It's because it automates the alerts for them, right? As a seller, I want to know what's happening in my neighborhood. I get it once a month, active, pending, and solds. The system searches it, sends it. Automated, right? It's better than any other simple email. But again, it's up to you what email you want to send, right? But when people start to unsubscribe your email, it's because they're seeing no value. I've never had anyone say, stop mailing to me. I know we've had issues with mailing, right? With people, we just junk mail. No one has ever said this is junk mail. The TPMCO, 35 years. So they can't unsubscribe. Okay. They can't just hit a button, right? Okay. I know there's email newsletters out there and all that, right? It's up to you what you want to use. My thing is it working? You need to figure that out. Is what you're doing working? If not, come this side of right and see if this system can work for you. Because I know it can. Because the people have done what I'm teaching, it has worked. Okay. I challenge you, do something what I'm teaching you for at least a year. And if it doesn't work, you can have your money back. He'll give you $1,000 back. Right? Okay, right. Okay. So okay. Again, guys, it's consistency is the key. It's persistence, right? You call until they buy or die. Right? So to speak, right? Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
You keep in touch. And here's the thing, guys. If I have your phone number, you know, for some of you guys, I'm not sure if you haven't gotten a text from me in the last 2 3 weeks, text me. Hey, Greg, I've been missing out. Okay, because maybe you're not in my system, right? But for some of you guys are getting multiple texts because you're on multiple text string, right? But it's the same text though, right? Some of you guys are starting to notice that, right? It's the same text for the day or week. Okay. Bottom line is, like this week, you're checking in with people. You know, if you it's like, hi there, you know, hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. By the way, where did you watch fireworks? I'd love to know for next year. Great. Send. Okay. Now, would you send that to a complete stranger? Like you don't know this phone number. Yes. Why would you send it to a complete stranger? Hi there. Hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. By the way, you know, BTW, comma. I'll send you the text, right? Whoever's interested in that text me. Okay. You have my number. Say, Greg, send me that text from the class. Okay. Send it. Why would you not send it to a phone number you don't recognize? Would you okay, so let's talk about it. Would you offend them?
No.
Who care we?
Huh?
Who care we do?
Who cares if they do? Great. Okay. Next, so what? Get over it.
Yep.
What else? What else would the reaction be?
Who's this?
Who's this? Yeah?
All the
It's
time.
Greg Nassau in Terra Real Estate, you know. But send your information, right? But if you don't recognize the number, won't you put your name, contact info already? Remember I told you? If you're not getting engagement for the last 3 to 5 texts, you may want to put in your name, Terra Real Estate, and your phone number on the bottom of the text. Some of you guys like, where's she at? Where's she at? Oh, did she leave? No, there she is. Camellia. Camellia puts her business card on the bottom, right? If you guys didn't see her digital business card yet, go talk to Camellia, right? And see it, right? Because when you send it, right? Yeah, they're gonna say, "Who is this?" That's who you explain. Why are you sending this to me? Be ready for that. Why are you sending this to me? Well, it appears that we've spoken in the past, right? About any potential real estate needs. Just wanted to be a resource to you. Call me if you have any questions, real estate questions. Great. It appears we spoke in the past about real estate. Now, if they say delete me, right? What do? You stop sending stuff to them, but you don't delete the phone number because they will call you back at some point, and it would be funny, right? Oh, this guy's Blaze again. He told me to delete him 5 times already, but he keeps calling my listings, right? Yeah, you'll meet people like that because nowadays most people don't change phone numbers, right? I keep people's phone numbers, and I have the text, conversations usually, right? Because text is usually people will text more than email or call.
Oh yeah.
Right? But to me, you call first, you text for marketing. Okay. But you always call. So I would do a quarterly call to them to see if they're still alive. Right. And this is where I need you guys to figure out, okay, Greg, what do I say to these people? Get to know their fort. Right. It's, hey, Emma, how are you? Guess who? Right. I mean, how many of you guys ever open up a conversation like that? Hey, mom, guess who? It's your favorite son. I have a younger brother. Yeah, that's my opening line with my mom. Hey, it's favorite son, right? Yeah. So again, it's up to you what you say, right? If you don't know what to say, you need to ask us, Greg. What do I say to these people? What's my opening line? Right? It's like if you're single, you want to get married, you need to have an opening line. You need to go to some dating apps, right? I mean, you have to have some marketing, right? Because you want deals, right? Everyone wants deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where to get deals? Well, remember the income chain. Everybody is a suspect. You ask questions to turn them into a prospect, meaning keep in touch. You do lead follow-up to convert into an appointment. You do a presentation to get a listing or a sale, and then you handle objections and you close. That's the income chain. You move them through that process. Everyone is a suspect. Hey, do you have any questions about the real estate market? Yeah, is it okay if I kept in touch with you, just in case anything comes up in the future? Yes, no. If they say yes, what's your number, right? Again, you don't just say what's your number, but sometimes that's all it is. Hey, by the way, what's your number? Okay? And when you say that, you either have a pen and paper or you give them your phone. Do me a favor, can you input your contact info? And most people, when you hand them their phone, they'll put in their info. And make sure when you get it back, make a note like how'd you meet? So that way, when that phone comes up on it's time to call that number, you know how like met Rishan at this event, you know, right? Because you need to bring the previous conversation into today's conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Rishan, this is Greg. We met last month at the cycling event, right? You bring it back, but hopefully by then I would have sent you something by mail or an email. So when I call you, you either have my number saved, right? Because the moment someone comes to an open house and they give me their contact, there's a simple text I sent. Thanks for coming to our open house. The moment they leave the house, thanks for coming to the open house at 123 Main Street. Please let me know if you have any further questions about the property. And I'll add another sentence or two if there's something that I need to bring to that conversation. But there's a standard text, copy and paste. Thanks for coming to the open house at 123 Main Street.
I have a quick question when you get a chance.
Okay, so again, the moment you meet somebody, you need to call their number. Why? You want to make sure it's a real number. Make sense?
Mhm.
When someone says, give me your number, I said, okay, great. Let me just call it. Okay, that's my number. Let me send you a quick text. Rarely, when people write down on the open house registry, some of you guys remember you have to handwrite, the numbers and all that. Sometimes you can't read the number, or sometimes they put fake numbers. When you give them your phone, right, or when you give them a form like like what's our open house app? Spacio. When you have them fill out that form, more times than not, the information is accurate.
Yeah.
They're less likely to lie about it, or it's less likely not to be illegible, right? So make sure you know how to use Spacio if you're doing open houses, Bria, right? Make sure you know how to use Spacio, okay?
You can connect Spatial with
Yeah.
Follow Box.
Yep. Yeah, you can connect with Follow Up Boss, right? So make sure if you're doing open houses, you know how to use Spacio, or you need to know how to use your phone, okay, to do a quick text. So when people give you phone numbers, you can immediately send your information to them, okay? I don't care if it's a business card like Camila is doing, or just a simple text. Thanks for coming to the open house at 123. Make sure you always put the address that they just visited, right? Because then it puts it together. So that way, when you text them next time, they'll see the history of texts, right? Okay. Emma, question?
Yes, I actually have a question. I met someone recently, and they're going to be going through a divorce, and I need to follow up with them. But what would be the proper way? What could I say? Because I don't want to make I want to make sure I'm very respectful and
Yeah, you're not going to bring up divorce all the time, right? You know the reason. So, are you talking to the husband, the wife, or both?
the husband.
Okay. Have you met the wife?
No,
Okay. How do you know the husband?
I met him
Okay, like where?
at a karaoke place.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now, because you need both, right?
Yeah,
You need both of them to have a buy-in, right?
right.
So, do they live at the same house still?
Yes.
Okay. So, I would probably send them your newsletter to both, right? Put both their names, sign them up on tpmco.com. You don't just send it to the husband, because the wife's going to think you're trying to steal the husband. Okay. It's a joke. Okay. Just
Not.
whenever you're mailing you send it to both people, okay, not just the person you're talking to, okay?
Okay.
Because the other person might feel left out. Okay, if they lived in separate addresses, I would send it to both of them, right? At least figure out how to introduce yourself to the wife, if that's the case. So in this case, you met the husband, right? So
Yes.
now, what I would do, right now, you'll be calling the husband and saying, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on? By the way, is there anything you need, for your lawyer regarding the real estate value of your home, right?
Right.
Again, as a realtor, what can we bring to the conversation? What is our fair trade?
Right.
Right. The number one thing is valuation of the home. Second is the net. Right. Third is what improvements do we need to do to increase the value of the property. Those are the three main things. Right. Fourth, you talk about how long it's going to take to market the home, and then fifth is what you're going to do to market the property.
Yeah.
Those are the type of things that you need to have a conversation with him about, and eventually with the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
If it's in a divorce situation, I would maybe, I don't know if the property is close to where you live or work. I would find a reason to door knock the property,
Okay.
right? And just listed, just sold in the area.
Okay.
And then from there, maybe you'll strike up something with the wife, right?
Right. Right.
Or you can also ask the husband, is it okay if I call your wife, right? So at
Right.
least, see if there's anything I can do for her, right? Now, if they're not talking, that's even a harder conversation, right? Usually divorces, I've had divorces where they're nice. Sometimes there's another agent involved. The wife has an agent. My client, the seller, the husband has an agent. Me,
Yeah, that's what I'm worried
that
about.
happens too. Okay,
Yes.
but I want to establish a good relationship as soon as possible. So that's where I would do the mailing already. Okay, see that's where to me the purpose, or the power of mailing, is you can do quiet marketing. Okay, and they will see it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully next week everyone's on that newsletter already, right? At least have gotten your samples. At least you've set up your free account, uploaded your photo, and then starting to get your 50 names uploaded as soon as you can already. Right? Who was it last week that I was supposed to have 50 by this week?
Wasn't John here?
Right? Did you get there?
Yeah.
Right? Did you get it set up? All done?
Yep.
Right? Okay. So everyone should be at 50 by next week. If you don't have 50 names, then you need to talk to your neighbors or get to know more of your friends and family and relatives. You should have to get 50 already. Everyone should be at 100 minimum already by now, right? Because remember, the more mailers you're going out, the more likely you're going to have potential deals in the future. Because here's the thing, right? I need you to figure out their forward, right? So like with John now, he's guys 50. I need to know the list, and then we, like Blaze, right? How many do you have now?
274.
Okay. So like on those 274, right? We need to find out, okay, when do you think they're gonna be selling? Okay. You gotta have a timeline. Because next week I'll give you my lead follow-up system of how often to call them, right? And what things you could be sending them besides the newsletter, besides the text, right? Besides the quarterly call. Right? Because we need to now talk about different scenarios. Like, okay, Larry has this one, they're not going to sell forever, right? They're going to die there. Well, perfect, great. You send them the monthly mailer, you do a quarterly call, you eventually find out their birthdays, anniversaries, kids, right? Anything important that they do, right? If they're going to die there, what kind of improvements do they plan to do in the property? How old are they? Do you know how old the people are in your database? The 274, the 50 people that you guys have in your database, do you know how old they are? Should know their birthdays, because that will help you in marketing to them, right? You guys heard of AARP, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
gotta sign up soon.
If they're 55 and over, I always tease them, hey, have you signed up for your AARP card? Hey, did you know you can get discounts for this? I have one now. Okay, right? And if they're married, it's 2 for 1, right? So again, it's, hey, I tease them about that, right? When they hit 55 or 60, or again, I know what the conversations have been,
Right.
right? Okay. You got to find out what these discounts are, right? Like, some department stores give senior discounts, right? Like I used to know Denny's a lot, right? Denny's that Grand Slam, what I don't know what they have now, right? But that was the conversation I had in the '90s with people. Like, hey, do you get do you get your 55, your Grand Slam, whatever they called it before, right? On a certain day, right? Because it was like, there's like discount for seniors. Yeah, I know seniors that go to Denny's, right? Because they tell me, or I've told them about it. Why is that important? They're not going to be selling. Who knows? I've had listings where people have died, meaning the kids were getting the flyers from their parents' house, right? I was mailing to the parents, one of the parents, and I didn't know they died. How come I didn't know they died? Well, guess what? I've been mailing, leaving a message on the answering machine, right? Um, and I do what I do. And next thing I know, I get a call from the heirs or the kids. Hey, it looks like you've been talking to my parents. I'm not sure if you knew they died last year. I said, oh, that's interesting. I was wondering why he hasn't called me back. But is there anything I can do for the family? Is there anything that you need from a real estate standpoint? Because sometimes, right? So I asked him about the real estate. Hey, I was wondering, because he said, your dad says, he loves the area. I've been giving him some information. Again, what I've been talking about the dad with, right? I bring it back to them. Right? We build a relationship. Once in a while, I'll get in there. All right. But I don't know. But sometimes, yeah. Yeah, he passed away. Yeah, we sold the property already. Yeah. Then I just delete, right? Him. But then what I do? Hey, by the way, where do you guys live? Mm-hmm. Oh, you guys live in Fremont? Oh, perfect. Which area? Oh, really? Oh, that's one of the areas that I serve. Which street do you live on? Oh, yeah, that's off of Paseo Padre, isn't it? How do I know which area? Because I know real estate, right? Oh, I live in Atlanta. Oh, perfect. Great. Hey, by the way, do you guys ever come back and forth? Hey, what are your plans for the property? Right? Hey, do you know the tax situation regarding the property? Did you inherit this, or are you going through probate? Right? When someone dies, right? How is it transferred? Is there anything I can do to help the process? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So again, you can help people. Okay, divorce, right? You have a divorce lawyer. I have resources to that, right? Right? You guys have divorce lawyers in your database, right? If not, you know how to find one, right? nonari@interior.com. I need a divorce lawyer in Fremont, right? Okay. So you have resources that you can give people. So you ask them that. Hey, by the way, is there anything I can do for me from a real estate standpoint? Oh, no, no. Hey, are you curious about the value for your home? Do you think you might need that for your lawyer? Oh, I don't even have a lawyer. See? You ask smart questions to open things up. You get them talking to open things up. Yeah? Okay? So remember, expires for sale by owners, leads, hot leads, your COIs, and then everybody else. Right? Some people don't want expires for sale by owners. Fine. You have hot leads. So those are your first calls. Those are the ones you need to figure out what to do. And you don't have a lot of those, maybe 5 or 10. Right? You should know what to do with them. If not, reach out. Your COIs, you got to know how to talk to them about their forward. Right? And this week, our conversation opening is, how was your fourth? Where did you watch the fireworks? Okay, that's the topic of conversation this week. Next week's gonna be different. I'll have a different topic. Every week I usually have a different topic, right? Like last week, how many of you guys got you see this?
This is the last time.
Your your beauty museum pass, right? Today is the last day before it expires, right? It's only $50 savings, but if you make a big deal out of it, people will sign up. So this weekend, some of them, I did remind them, hey, by the way, did you get it yet? Some of you guys got my text, right? Right? Hey, did you get it yet, right? Some people did, some people still haven't. Now, why haven't people done it? Not you guys as agents. I'm assuming you're gonna do it today, right? But why don't you think people log on and get their free passport?
They don't think they'll go.
Yeah, there's no interest in it, right? They don't think they're go, right? And this is where some of them like my kids, right? I tell them, how come you haven't signed up yet, right? I said, you never know when you guys may go this year. It'll save you. It's good for all four of you guys, right? I tell them sign up. I don't know if they are or not. If they don't, oh well, right? Again, it's up to you. When you have something of value, how you're going to bring it back to them to remind them to do it. And if they don't, that's a perfect time. Oh, interesting. Okay, so you don't attend museums. Do you go to any type of museums whatsoever? What museum did you go to last? Oh, tell me more about that. How is MoMA? How is the Guggenheim? Right? You ask them about them now. You see how that is, right? They're not interested in this. Well, great. Tell me what you are interested in, right? Right? Because there are some different things, like if there's a credit card. I don't know if you guys know Capital One. You guys know that? Mm-hmm. Jennifer Gardner. There's a Capital One card, right, where you can get a free museum pass as part of your program. Not this one, but like to get you into like a Guggenheim or different type of museum as part of getting just a card. Okay, that's one of the benefits, right? Now, again, this is where, hey, by the way, have you heard of Capital One? It's a conversation piece. I'm not telling them go get this credit card. I'm going to ask them, by the way, do you have it? You may want to consider, if you like going to museums, this is one of the things. Now, make sure you research it. Like, what are those museums? Right? Like, now you guys know what these 30 museums are. Have a conversation about it. Right? Because all we're doing is conversations. Because when people says, Greg, I don't know what to talk to them about. Forward. Right? Get to know their forward. Friends and family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. That should be easy. If you're sincerely interested about people.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Yes.
I want to thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
On our last Monday, when we were thinking of ways to start conversations,
Mhm.
I'm pretty active.
Okay.
I've been telling you with my
Yeah.
sphere, but I've kind of run out of things. And I forwarded them. I've done all these things.
Yeah.
Anyway, a simple happy early 4th of July. What are your plans?
Yeah.
I sent to 350 people from
Okay.
a database.
All right.
I got over 200 responses.
Yeah. How did you send it? Which
Just through text.
text, right?
My fingers.
Okay.
were
Yeah.
going.
Okay.
But I created a notes
Yeah.
tab in my phone.
Yeah.
And then I copied or put in the initial, hey, what are your
Yeah.
plans? And then if they said they had plans, I did something kind of generic,
Mhm.
but I personalized it per person. So like I would copy that generic part. Like let's say someone was saying that they were going to their sister's house for a barbecue.
Yeah.
I would put, oh, fun.
Yeah.
Are you bringing a dish or like something like that?
Yeah.
But just keeping those conversations going. And yeah,
Okay.
I think I want to say I got over 200 responses.
Yeah.
I'm still responding to
Yeah.
people.
See, so Jess, in case you guys are not here, right? Jess Williams here in Union City, right? She sent out over 350 texts, copy and paste, right? Copy and paste, right? And then over 200 responses. And that's going to keep going.
I did provide them the list that you said too.
Yeah.
I compiled a list for my particular East Bay of fireworks.
Okay.
And so that when they asked what I was doing, I shared with them because they did.
Yeah.
And then if they said they had plans, I said, oh, well, I compiled a list of fireworks. I was going to send it to you, but maybe you don't need it now.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised too. Several people were like, you know what,
Send,
we have
right?
plans, but still send it.
Yep.
And several of them were like, oh, send this to me and I'll send it to my friend.
Yeah.
So this was the first time where I'm like, this was so simple
Mhm.
and it worked. And
Yeah.
so now I'm excited for my calls for the appliances. That
Yeah.
would be my next one.
Mhm.
But I would love to forward think, plan the rest of my quarters
Yep.
to have something monthly like this. That's
Yeah.
fun to just engage.
Mhm. Yep. Okay. I think it was Melissa, right? Melissa, you sent me a good flyer or that you did for the fireworks, right, Melissa? I think that was you that sent it, right?
I did a flyer for the park.
Oh, for the park. Okay. All right. Yeah. Someone sent him about the fireworks, but yeah. So the park, right? Yeah. So you guys can fancy these things up, right? Some of you guys, there's different things you can find on the internet also, right? Again, it's up to you what you send out, right? All you're doing is something that's not real estate related,
Yeah.
right? Because remember, 90% of the people we talk to are not thinking about selling or buying. Real estate may be in their mind. They know I'm a realtor, but I'm not saying, hey, when you're ready to buy or sell, call me. It's a good rates are good, prices are good. It's hey, have you thought about this? Right? Now, every so often, but and sometimes the real estate will be in there. But again, from the 200, something may come up sooner than later.
I got one referral
Right?
for my clients.
Imagine if you didn't send the 350.
Yeah.
Right? See, that's where I want you guys to think like what the power of this is, right? Simple things, little things, right? Okay. You never know what is going to trigger people, right? Because there's 150 that didn't respond. That's okay.
You're still planting
Yeah.
seeds, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because next month, different messaging. That's going to resonate with them. Maybe next month, the third month, the sixth month, you never know what's going to resonate, right? It's rare that you said like 6 texts and no one even likes it or anything. Usually it's either a like, love it, or something. Because it's, when you do a happy Father's Day, happy Mother's Day, whatever day it is, you got to know who you're saying it to, right? Okay. But bottom line is that's a general thing, right? There was something about the history of the 250 years, right, that I found on the internet. You just share that with some people. Hey, do you know what, how we got here? Or, do you know how many stripes are on the flag? How many stars? Right? Right? Sometimes I'll do that again, just like Justice. She put in her notes, right? So you can copy and paste it. Right? You can copy and paste things. To me, the text is better than email. Right?
But
Because
you
it's
also gave us the information you were talking about.
Yeah.
About children or family. And so I'm like, oh, this is great to notate. So the next time I go to text them, I can say, oh, you shared that you did blah, blah, blah. How did that go?
Yep. Yeah, it's building on it.
That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, now we need to keep all that information somewhere besides our brain.
Our database.
Right? That's where your CRM, your follow-up boss, rev, top producer, whatever, right? You gotta have that information somewhere. Otherwise, you're gonna forget. Right? Okay. Right? I told you, my wife forgot our anniversary, that day, last week, right? It's we have so many things up in our head that we sometimes will forget that moment, right? Okay. And that's where, imagine if you reminded someone about an important date or a fun date, right? Right? Yeah. Okay. So again, get to know people's for it, right? Um, so that's how you would be calling. So now I want to hear what objections you guys are getting. This is all about relationships. Okay. We are not, it's rare that people are going to be ready to buy or sell today. Unless you're calling for sale balance expires or you have a lot of hot leads, it is rare that says, yeah, come on over. It's usually, hey, yeah, let's talk about it. Okay. Right. So I'm going to end the recording here.